Davis, how do you prevent, because you do run the risk of this turning into a wank fest. Three guys sitting around talking about guitars. How do you sit there and say, let's make sure that we go have a few more layers to this?
Well, we kind of, Les and I learned something on Inconvenient Truth. We sort of stumbled on this incredible process. When we were filming Al Gore, when the crew would arrive with all the lights and, you know, here's a chair to sit in, here's your mark, the interview would somehow change because there's a formality of a filmed interview. You got that came through. And over time in the making of Inconvenient Truth, the more I worked with Al, the less I had crew there. And by the end, I was just doing audio interviews. And the most emotional stuff, the most personal stuff, the most intimate stuff came from him and me sitting in a hotel room alone, talking, and sometimes for 3 hours. And that was the end process of where I got the best stuff. And I said, why not start this movie that way? So the first interview with Jimmy, I flew to London, we sat in a hotel, and we talked for 3 hours. Just audio, no cameras. And the next day we talked for 3 hours. I had no notes, no predisposition. I didn't want to, and so whatever comes out of those interviews would be his story. Same thing with Jack. We met in LA. With Edge, it was Burbank one day and then London the next. And through those, then I took these audio interviews home, cut them as stories, put them up on the wall, and said, okay, now I'm ready to shoot. With a lot of documentaries, you say, I'm going to go to shoot a documentary, and you show up with a crew, and you know, here I am in London, you know, let's shoot something. You don't know what to shoot. This process allowed me to figure out, now I know where the stories are going. I've edited a lot of the audio, and now I know what to shoot. And so I hope what comes through in the movie is something very intimate, very personal. And so Jack's interviews told me where Jack's story should go, and Edge's interviews told me where Edge's story should go, and same with Jimmy. And so that's why it's very, very organic. And that's the process.
So did the movie end up being something different than what you thought it would be before you started it?
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it. And I learned a lot from working with these musicians, that there's something, if you decide at the beginning where you want it to go, it's not going to be very interesting. You know, if you have a more improvisational approach, if you allow things to come, beautiful things will happen. You have to trust it. You have to take the leap and know that you're going to stumble and fall. But I learned as a filmmaker to follow what these guys do naturally. So,
you know, and to Jimmy and to the Edge, because Jack, you have to do it on stage with the microphone, but you two guys have the luxury of having a singer doing most of the talking on stage. The idea of sitting down and you two being the ones who had to explore a little more why you do what you do and put it on camera. Was that a learning process for you?
Yeah, actually, to be honest with you, yeah, because I learned a lot about these guys from it, but I certainly learned quite a lot about myself too. So, yeah, I think we've all learned from the whole project, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely. It is terrifying, I think, to get into the process and your personal story for the first time. I felt it was a very revealing process, almost to the point where, you know, I felt kind of vulnerable. But Davis, I think, had a great feel for sort of what was crucial to the story. And I think what he's done is made a film about a subject matter that probably most people wouldn't think would be interesting. But I think he's made a film that everyone will find entertaining and will find interesting, because he's made it about, not about just the technical side of guitar playing, not about the music, but the personal journeys that have brought the three of us through to the point where we are now, and doing what we do. And I think he's got a great eye as a documentary filmmaker, and
Jack,
it shows.
Had you had the chance to kind of explore your own relationship with the instrument and those early songs that you wanted to play? Had you had the chance to do that before in this, like you would in this particular context?
You mean?
Because you got to, I mean, you are the front man, but at the same time, you got to play a different role here.
Right, right. It was good to just attack one side of being a musician or being a songwriter, or just only look at it from the angle of this instrument, and I think an interesting part about the film is almost like there are millions of guitar players out there, and these are 3 of them. And how did these 3 do it? And it's all different angles of how we all came about it, and all different generations too. And through that process, you learn a lot about what was happening with England and the blues boom in the 60s with Jimmy, and what was happening in Ireland and the British Isles, and the punk scene in the 70s and early 80s, and what was happening in Detroit and the underground rock and roll scene and garage rock in the United States turn of the century. And there's common threads and there's not common threads, you know. And I think, but it's sort of like what Hitchcock would call the guitar is the MacGuffin of the film. You know?
Yeah. Let's go here. Question?